D-Day was 3 days ago. I don't know who this person is. We had been talking about having another kid. She has issues, so the path was arduous. And then a job trip opened up, off she went, and we kept talking via phone, Skype, the works. We talked about how we would miss the ovulation date, and how that would make us wait another month. No big deal, I can wait. Of course, since she was away, I had to keep track of many things including her cloud account, make copies, and do some editing on some documents she's working on. And boom, a week after day she was supposed to start ovulation, I see her in a selfie with a guy she works with, and to which she has been referring a lot. I copied the photo, and about a day later she deleted it from the account. Now, about the selfie, the woman I married is a person that doesn't drink, doesn't party, goes to bed at 10 p.m. at latest, doesn't like pictures and social media, doesn't do selfies, and most importantly, abhors physical contact with strangers. Seeing her with this guy was as out of character as seeing a gramophone digging through trash. That photo was in itself shocking. But that also made me remember the last conversation before ovulation day, curt, short, chippy, and perfunctory. There was a person that seemed eager to dismiss me. So, I went to her family phone tracker because she used to make sure we are all safe at home or at school, and of course, I see her driving to liquor stores late at night and by her own admission partying until 5 a.m. Of course, she says she didn't drink. There were no more pictures, but her tone in the messages was off, angry, hurtful, accusing, and these all ceased about 10 minutes before she headed off to the next party, to the next liquor store, and another in which she drives half an hour to go to an oyster bar before heading to the hotel. The guy, she kept telling me about him, was her driver because he knew the region, and he would be the one driving. So, in every instance, I know that it is this guy driving, and we are paying for it. The last thing I see is that they are staying at a fancy hotel, and she told me that she had to hire him full-time to travel throughout the region. Basically, it seems as she is having her own honeymoon, while I stay home and take care of our kid. She will arrive in 3 days, and I am dreading the conversation. She is adept at telling stories and making people like her, so I need proof that would be admissible by a lawyer and a judge. At least I need her to acknowledge out loud that she cheated, both forget her to work towards a possible R or, if things don't improve, D and all the attendant custody and alimony issues. I have read the forms, but besides the need to get a lawyer, a VAR and solid proof that can be admitted in court, I can't think of anything. Also, I know not to have sex with her at least until she gets checked out for STDs, and B enough time passes so I don't run the risk of having doubts about the paternity of a possible pregnancy. I know that, realistically, there's a high probability that we will engage in some weird hysterical bonding, so I am preparing a medical excuse to avoid things, at least until I have some more solid proof. Am I having ideas? Am I hallucinating? Am I making this stuff up? Surely this intelligent, gorgeous, dedicated person that I love wouldn't risk everything we have worked so hard for all this time in a mindless, ill-advised tryst. Surely, she wouldn't risk her professional reputation with a personal illicit relationship with a married man that works under her. Surely, she wouldn't try to have sex on ovulation day with a stranger. I can't sleep, can't eat, and depressed all the time, and I really hope I am imagining things, that I am making a storm where there's nothing, that this is all a misunderstanding and that they are all just friends, but there are so many signs out there making a pattern so familiar that it even hurts to think about it. Thanks for reading this rant. After reading all the responses, and taking into account what you all have said, yeah, I am getting a pie in the city to get me hotel records and descriptions by the hotel employees. It might help. Also, I am holding the confrontation until I get more proof, and then, when the kid is at her parents', expose it. That will be next weekend. Lawyer, doctor, counseling is in line. I am going for an STD test tomorrow. I really don't want to go. And in response to, no, she hasn't said anything explicit yet, and that's part of what was saying, I need certainty, if anything to get some peace of mind. I am second-guessing myself, but it is these tiny little interactions, a call with an absurd request, a myriad acts of omission, a sudden disconnect from her cloud account that I was working on, and that she hasn't allowed to reconnect, are indicators that something big is happening. For example, the cloud service was, in part, to get some tax information that is important for her work. After my comment, she suddenly decided that it can wait. So, I'll wait, get hard evidence, and confront her when the kid is at the grandparents' for the weekend, which was supposed to be our daytime. This keeps getting more complicated. I do have a kid, and since she was ovulating at the time that they might have had sex, it is important to have proof in order to avoid alimony and perhaps get more custody rights, in case this goes all the way to D. BTW, I just got the hotel records. They got only one room at least in 3 different cities, and canceled an airborne, at 1 a.m., that was for 2 rooms. At 1 a.m., she was awake at 1 a.m. Again, that is so against what I used to know. Anyway, now there is a more defined course of action, much less hesitation. You are right, but from the things I have seen, the receipts, the message times, the whole thing, it looks as if I have to be prepared with all info that I can. Because this whole thing was very well planned and executed, reservations, places full of tourists, driving half an hour just to get back immediately, etc. I'm going to take this ring off right now. I was right. We had a conversation, she admitted it, and promised. So, we are going to seek MC, and meanwhile I need her to take the new pin out of her phone and open her email accounts again. She admitted to having sex, but has been reluctant to say what when, etc., making it look like it was a single event instead of the 2-week honeymoon, and placed the blame on me. She was alone, so she acted to take care of herself, in her words. Another conversation is coming. She has been scheduled to travel again in 5 months, which we knew beforehand, so this is a new interesting wrinkle in that plan. And she will get tested for STDs first thing Tuesday, but we are still a long way from starting the healing process. She says that, I want to but getting evidence because at this point, that is necessary. Oh, yeah, tomorrow we are going to have a conversation about secrecy and other basic things for the contract, NC with medical tests, stopping the secrecy and honesty. And as for the lawyer, yes, I need these things, as the guy lives out of the USA and she's planning on taking our son to that town when she leaves. I am not allowing that. Ugh, you all are sure tough. I am asking for her complete story, full of details, via email. I am going to see a lawyer to get my options clearly explained. I checked her phone and computer and all was erased. She booked the hotels with 2 double beds for plausible deniability. Yes, this was thoroughly planned and it is extremely devious. So, I am asking her to go to counseling while I get my lawyer and my papers. I haven't exposed her yet, or the but the has apparently a history of infidelity and his partner seems to accept this. Anyway, I am looking for her and holding that card for after the lawyer and custody talk. She is going to get an STD and pregnancy test tomorrow when the clinic opens. She's still in the middle of the fog, and it is literally impossible to make sure that she has cut contact with and of course she doesn't want to. You are all correct. Her attitudes and acknowledgments are far from a contrite stance, and although she jumped immediately into a please let's mode, she has not agreed to any substantive plan of action. WTF do I do? There's nothing open, and we have to have a weekend of visiting friends and things that we had agreed before I knew there was this situation. I do feel hopeless, a thing that now I recognize she encourages because it gives her power. I have finally been able to sleep yesterday, for the first time since D-Day. I am eating well, and tomorrow will be gym day and hopefully lawyer day. I stopped the MC talk and asked her to go to IC. And I got home pregnancy tests that she will have to take tonight. No, the kid won't go to Mexico. He will stay with me in the States. Also, she is doing independent research, so her use of resources was technically correct. Yes, devious and malicious. I am looking forward to her email explaining the details of the infidelity. I asked for emotional and sexual details, as well as a timeline, in writing, via email. I might use it to heal from this, one way or the other. She is still in the middle of the fog and doesn't seem to want out of there. Well, there's news. She has some implantation bleeding, complete with all the symptoms accompanying it. Heartache, nausea, back pain, early period that lasts only up to 3 days. Now, she swore that they just had sex with condoms, and of course expects me to believe it, so I bought 2 pregnancy tests. The first one was inconclusive, so now she's going to pee on the other one in front of me. Also, already made an appointment with a divorce lawyer and exposed to my brothers. She's already seeking a place to move to. Yes, infidelity affects divorce. I have proof now. Yes, I confronted based on my thoughts and feelings, and she admitted. That is amazing, because it erases the doubts about other behaviors that she might have or the attacks she might mount in the future. You were all right. She's used to lying and continues to do so. I already contacted the divorce attorney. This was an exit affair. She just showed me a letter that she wrote before the affair, in which she complains about all I failed to do in this marriage and confirms that she checked out a year ago. Now she refused the post-affair contract, cited Esther Perel as justification, and refuses to use any of the computers at home. This affair was just her way of asking for a divorce. She even expressed sorrow when it turned out she was not pregnant. It is snowing today, so I had to reschedule appointment with attorney, but yeah, this is the end. You were all right. Reader comment, this was an exit affair. No, she just got caught, that's all. The affair had nothing to do with you or your marriage, please know this. She didn't do this with the intention of ending the marriage. If she actually, honestly wanted out of the marriage, then she would have simply talked to you about separating, or divorcing rather than talking about having another child with you. She got caught betraying her own family and is spinning it in any way she can to minimize guilt and find justification where there is no justification. Your goal now is to take care of you and your child and only you and your child. It may be difficult to realize this right now, but be assured that, in the end, you will be much better off and much happier with this person no longer in your life. Original poster, you are right. The move out of the house got nixed after she woke up one night to find me crying on the floor in the living room. She apologized then and seemed to understand the pain. But a few days later, the wayward wife apologized for the pain that she caused me, not for the EAPA, but for the pain that knowing about it caused me. In other words, wayward wife is sorry she got caught. That's it. As for her professional fallout, that's her problem now. I don't care about what happens to her career and am severing all the formal and informal connections that we shared, where she is the primary contact. The letter timeline is easy. We have been trying for a year, and she has some issues, but the letter might have been written on the plane back from her trip as a perfect justification. This week is getting IC and filling paperwork. Reader comment, the facts sound clear to any of us. Take her phone from her. Does she have a password you know? If she is faithful, she will give it to you, and you can apologize after. If she is unfaithful, she will refuse and deny everything. Check her phone text messages file manager. My wife gave me hers but had cleared everything. What she didn't know is I found the thousands of texts to one number. So, I pretended I was her and had the wife face-to-face texting me everything. Try to get her phone bills and phone if possible. Original poster, she had deleted everything. As of now, wayward wife remains ambivalent and keeps referring to as a good person and someone that might be a perfect soulmate in other conditions. So, as I referred in a previous thread, still in the fog. I personally consider that is a scumbag and a manipulator, but I might be biased. I do need to get the detectives to get the real info on Also, blaming him only would excuse the faults in wayward wife, and she has to own them. Wayward wife is an IC, working though her issues, and, per her words, looking forward to I made clear that we don't have a marriage to repair yet. We might rebuild this, but we don't know yet. She's finally left her phone unattended and gave me the key to unlock it. I remain hopeful but wary. And you wonder, is she sorry she got caught, sorry for the pain she caused, sorry for what she did? She's sorry for the first two. Yesterday she was still justifying her actions and praising for being there to protect her. Thanks to NC laws, we would have to go through a separation of 1 year before and because monetary issues, that's not an option at the moment. So, we have to work with what we have right now. I already got a new bank account, lawyer, and IC. Also, we are going to get a post-nuptial, since my in-laws have so nicely suggested that in the past. Very much unknown. What are we going to do right now? I keep monitoring her, and we talk every night with as much disclosure and vulnerability as we can muster. Apparently, she put aside the peril books and is now seeing my pain, and perhaps recognizing hers as well. And that's the kicker, I can see her pain, same that she refuses to acknowledge. Our kid is savvy enough to understand that there is something serious going on, and he's constantly sad now. I keep going to the gym and strictly adhering to my diet. What about the 180? What I learned from that and many other sources is that, once you acknowledge that your partner is not your partner anymore, that you are alone, that all this ended, it is easier to go through life without pining for the past. Wayward wife understands that what I do with this gym and diet is not for her, but for me, and that whatever professional and personal collaborations we had, ended. She has to earn my trust now, with actions, and we still far away from that. Oh, yeah, I do have issues as well, and that's why I am going to IC. I don't care if she does, or if she seeks a good therapist, because that's her problem now. We are not partnering anymore. Practicing that intentional self-reliance is interesting. I get more power and reclaim more of my own person. For example, when I mentioned the gym, she asked me to get muscular, because that's what attracted her many years ago. I simply told her that this time, cardio and lean is my thing. That insignificant and small step was, though, a tiny victory against the insidious and interfering objections that always appear. As for we will see. We had a conversation last night, one of those that we have been having since wayward wife arrived from her project trip, and she maintains the integrity and good nature of her AP. Every conversation that might include him turns into a defense of AP, so much so that the EAP remains, in the eyes of wayward wife, a hurtful thing to do, but a justified one. How does that make sense? We are in the middle of so many things, personal and professional projects that had to be canceled or postponed, like a consulting company that we were working on launching, some projects that arose from her trip, etc., that I am lost. I do maintain my personal projects, I see, and told her that I am not participating in the proposed consulting company. How do I stop doing the pick-me dance? When do I know that I am doing it? That was a 2x4 that I indeed needed. BRB will read and act more on the 180. Reader comment, I have an observation and a belief I want to pass on to you. I spent 45 years in a uniform, first in the military and then 20 years having to deal with criminals. Early on in my military career I adopted 4 principles to live my life by as close as I could. They were honor, integrity, loyalty, and commitment. With that, let me say that any man who would willing pursue, entice, and become intimate with another man's wife or so is completely void of honor or integrity. This man is the epitome of a low-life human being. And if he is married, then he drops even lower. Your wife needs to know that this person she regards so highly is a man without principles and someone that needs to be shunned and not revered. He is an incubus, and when he grows tired of her, he will move on to the next willing female. Not to leave out your wife, she broke all 4 principles: honor, integrity, loyalty, and commitment. You can do better than her. The worst revenge you could inflict upon both her and him would be to let them have each other. I do wish you well. Original poster, I believe that what you write is quite right. The shock now of the infidelity has now passed, and now I am finding more and more of those attributes that make me think less of wayward wife, and to reassess as my own passive role in this relationship, and how I left all these boundaries get all trampled on. All those values that you mentioned are extremely important to me, as I grew up with those, and believe in them. I did never assess or review her actions against my values, or what wayward wife purported as hers. Reader comment, you've gotten good advice about using the 180 to get you out of the cycle of the pick-me dance. Employing the 180 signals to you that you are putting yourself first. Taking yourself over her. The 180 takes practice. You may stumble a few times. It does work in creating a new state of mind. Original poster, thanks for that insight. I can reimagine the 180 to devoting energy for myself and my activities. That causes less conflict at the intention to enact the 180 and having to deal, subconsciously, with the fact that the wayward wife did what she did. Because it is still pain what I feel. You sound like my therapist. Thanks. An update. She is in IC, as am I. And although she says that she wants to remain in M, there is a lot of work to do. I don't even call this R. Finally went to NC, and I checked that a P was blocked on all platforms that I can see. She has been more open and seems somewhat remorseful, yet I am now the untrusting one. She still sees the time with AP as a perfect thing, so, still in the fog. Sadly, my finances right now put me in a bind, so we are living in the same place. She has changed her routine and is doing the I am so involved now routine. We will see. Surprisingly, I am detached enough now to minimize the flashbacks, and only the occasional song will trigger me. She stopped listening to her romance, infidelity music and recognizes that those are triggers. Yes, I do think that I am doing a mix of the pick-me dance and of the 180. Example, she asked me to pick her IC, and I told her that is her responsibility and decision. Then again, I gave her a Valentine's card. I am also preparing stuff for the post-nuptial agreement, and have already a lawyer for the separation agreement, because in NC you have to spend a year separated before you actually divorce. That is cruel, and hard on people with limited resources, and brutal on the emotions. Finally, I was the SAHP, in order to further her career, so now it is me, back on the job market, hearing about how I am so qualified yet lack experience. I am rebuilding my life without her. I still can't trust her. Reader comment. Periodic I may have missed it, but aside from her perfect time thoughts, what does she say about where she is regarding the disrespect and betrayal of you in the marriage? Also, I asked earlier, and it likely got lost. At one time she had intentions of taking your child to the other country to meet her AP. 1. Is this child biologically yours and hers? 2. What if anything was her intent in doing such a morally absent act? Just curious as to how one justifies these things. Original poster, we are the biological parents, and she's reconsidering the trip with the kid because DS will get in the way of her research. I guess she was thinking her fantasy of living there, or vacationing there. I don't know. However, little kid has ADHD, and seeing him without the med and having to take care of him for one day brought her little fantasy down to earth very fast. She's still talking about going there, alone this time. I can work with this, for separation and custody purposes. She's still in the fog, and everything about the AP is good. I have tried to argue, explain logical points, whatever. My therapist told me to stop making excuses for her, and the 180 is basically that. So I did. One little thing is that she has started apologizing more about it. Yesterday she only blamed me once for her A. So, the law in this state requires that people start separation only after moving out, which is such a effing mess, means that we are still living under the same roof. But I got the passport, and that kid is not leaving the country. Reader comment, what do you do for a living? Or what do you want to do? Original poster, I was in it, and now trying to get back as data analyst or business analyst after a while of being out of the job market, with only a few projects here and there. It has not been easy. Interesting development, and one that all of you had suggested. After a little more TT, I festered for a day or two. I stopped having conversations, and simply told wayward wife that as she lies, and lies. I don't trust her anymore. B. Stop blaming me for the own up to it, it is her fault. CAP is a scumbag and stop defending him. B. She doesn't get to decide what is being NC. Checking social media status is maintaining contact, still being in the affair. E. We are starting separation now. Over the rest of the day wayward wife started crying and begging like I have never seen before, showed me her phone and deleted AP contact from there, and showed me how all her accounts and passwords are all already open in my computer. Apparently, the reality of a separation started the flow of consequences and hardship to all of us that it entails, and that made her face reality. She seems to get, now, that her little trip is a 2-year ordeal of recovery for me and was terribly hurt and sorry that her caused me to not trust her. It feels better. I told her that, regarding her sexual history with AP, I don't care anymore. That was also a shocker for wayward wife since that seemed to have the strongest effect in me. Basically, I started to reclaim my space. Wayward wife, I chose you. PZ, no, dear wayward wife, if anything, I might choose you. You are not the one choosing here. I fear that, if I don't do this, she will simply think of it as a bluff. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. Also, all I have is her panic attack and her tears, but I need to see a real change in actions before I even start to believe her. There was a little of that yesterday. Why it's so hard for the wife to comprehend that they are not trustworthy anymore. How can't they get the enormity of their betrayal? My next step is to get legal info on AP and sue for alienation of affection here in NC. It doesn't do anything, since AP lives in other country, but if he ever wants to come here, it will show up and mess his visa application, because it is considered as moral turpitude. Reader comment, I may be able to put you in touch with it positions. Once you get in full swing let me know. Original poster, thanks all. Thanks for the offer. I will be messaging you soon. Yeah, wayward wife has past issues for which she refused therapy or even to discuss it. Now, part of the conditions is that she goes to IC, and one that addresses all those problems, not only the A. I am bracing myself for more TT now. It is becoming more irrelevant, though, as if I am checking out of here with every little lie. Is that normal? Reader comment, yes, very normal. As many say here, it is actually the lying which kills the man the most. Hopefully, your wayward wife understands that soon enough. If not to save the man, then at least to help you heal before you now on. Original poster, that's right. She has shared in the past situations where others have crossed her boundaries, or simply abused her generosity, and while not excusing her, this is definitely a thing that she has to address with her therapist. That makes sense. I started detaching, and I am seeing that her problems are now less my problem and more her doing and her responsibility. I did suggest, though, that she gets therapy, and I am insisting on it. That has introduced an element of introspection that was missing here. Also, how much does the wife grieves for the lost A? That seems to have caught wayward wife by surprise. Reader comment, the grief is dependent on her level of remorse. There is the initial period when all the hormones subside, and then it's up to remorse or regret that determines this. In your plans for separation, give it a time period. This will give you both a measure of time to work on and gauge whether the relationship is indeed salvageable. Original poster, yeah, I am seeing that now. I'm reading the 180 again because I'm doing a version of the Pick Me dance once again. And yes, she's at that point when reality has hit her and she seems remorseful. She has her own I see. Time will tell. I was looking at her actions lately, today, and all is consistent. She is simply planning her exit while I take care of the kid. She is an extremely good liar. Her personality changes according to whoever she's talking to. I might read on the NPD thread. Right now, she's arrogant, seemingly sure that I haven't found her trick. So, I don't want to confront before having a place to live and a separation agreement with custody in my hand. This woman is a scary person right now. Reader comment, I hate to ask this question, but do you know for sure 100% that your first child is yours? Is it possible that she has no plan to leave you, she just wants you to raise other men's children? Horrible thoughts, but this is not the woman you thought she was. Original poster, I have been looking at DNA paternity tests for the kid. I love my kid, though, and don't want her to bring another man in the mix, if that's the case, so I might make that in private lab. I'm making an appointment with my doctor to have the kid tested, and that's why the urgency to get out of here. And yeah, before, it was simply that might have sounded alarms regarding an unstable marriage. And she seemed remorseful. Now, it is way worse, lies, deceit, and using it to cover the tracks of another. As my therapist said, my main focus is on getting a job and getting physically out of here. My main concern is getting out of this place as soon as I can. And yes, detaching is happening fast. I am worried about how the divorce will impact my kid, but that concern is quickly being replaced by what would happen to my kid if he were to be raised by this person. And she's getting very good at covering her tracks, deleted all the info on her period tracking app, which I had luckily photographed earlier. I am waiting for No Mercy to show up and tell me some horrible truth that I need to hear. My therapist saw this coming. He has been coaching me towards getting a financial stability and independence. Funny thing is, the gaslighting started already. She's been all about and to read a book about rekindling him, and I so desperately want to save this man that, at first, I agreed. And then I found the scanned evidence for the second I want to know who the AP2 is. And I have the lawyer that I contacted early on, and the appointment is next week. This is shameful. My methods to verify and track where wayward wife was were all wrong. I am simply not trusting her at all. She's doing the work, and I am not connecting with her at all. I don't trust her. So, when the mileage tracker came out wrong, I jumped to conclusions. Upon further research, I found out that I made mistakes. She is, as far as I know, behaving. And no, it is not from what she says, it is from what I found out using other methods. So, I am not trusting her. Sorry for putting you all up in a tizzy, and I guess I am still hyper-vigilant and hyper-reactive.